Your mind is the control center of your life. Every decision, every action, every reaction, it all starts up here. But most people never stop to ask the most critical question. Who or what have I let inside? See, the truth is simple. Your thoughts shape your attitude. Your attitude shapes your behavior. And your behavior shapes your destiny. But everything begins with what you allow into your mental space. You wouldn't leave the front door of your house wide open all night, would you? You wouldn't invite a stranger in to rummage through your kitchen, steal your valuables, or throw mud on your floor. Yet people do this every single day with their minds. They leave the door wide open to gossip, to fear, to negativity, to self-doubt, to every toxic opinion disguised as advice. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, why they can't focus, why their energy's low and their confidence is shot. It's not a mystery, it's not bad luck, and it's exposure. What you feed your mind determines what grows inside it. Just like a farmer knows that planting corn won't bring up tomatoes, you got to understand, you don't get a positive mindset by soaking in negative material. Think about what's coming in through your phone, through your music, through the conversations you're having, through the news you watched late at night. Every single one of those inputs is planting something, and over time, those seeds grow into patterns, and those patterns become habits. And before you know it, your life is a reflection of the mental garden you've allowed to grow. You've got to take back control, and you've got to guard your mind like your future depends on it, because it does. This isn't about being naive or avoiding the real world. It's about building a fortress against poison. It's about developing the discipline to filter what comes in. If someone knocked on your front door and said, "Hey, I've got a pile of garbage, can I dump it in your living room?" you'd slam that door shut. But negativity is more subtle than that. It doesn't knock, it creeps in. It comes in the form of a friend who always complains, or a coworker who lives to gossip, or that voice in your head that says, "You're not good enough. Why even try?" You've got to learn to recognize the intruders, and you've got to throw them out without hesitation. Start small. Be intentional about what you listen to first thing in the morning. Don't wake up and scroll through chaos. Start your day with something that uplifts, that strengthens, that speaks life. Be mindful of who has access to your mental space. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people were meant to be in your life for a season, not a lifetime. And you can love them, bless them, wish them well, but you don't have to give them access to your peace. Create boundaries, not walls. Boundaries are for protection. They say, "I respect my future too much to let anything in that poisons my mindset." You've got to build a mental filter. Just like your body filters out toxins, your mind must filter out thoughts that don't serve your purpose. This is a daily practice, not a one-time decision, because every day life will test your door. Every day something or someone will try to slip in unnoticed. And you have to be alert. You have to be watchful. You have to be the gatekeeper of your destiny, because no one else is going to do it for you. There comes a defining moment in every person's life where they have to make a quiet but powerful decision, the decision to stop blaming the world and start owning their future. It's not loud. It doesn't happen on a stage. It doesn't come with applause or recognition. It happens in a small, honest moment where you look at your life, your circumstances, your outcomes, and instead of saying, "This isn't fair," you say, "This is mine to fix." That moment is where your attitude starts to change. That moment is where your power begins. Most people never reach that turning point because it's easier to hand away responsibility than to claim it. It's easier to say, "I would be successful if it weren't for my parents or my boss or the economy or my past." And for a while, those excuses feel like protection. They shield us from the pain of failure. They give us something to point at when we don't feel good about where we are. But over time, those excuses don't protect you, they imprison you. They trap you in a mental state where nothing is ever your fault. And if nothing is your fault, then nothing is within your control. And if nothing is within your control, then your life will never change. Fallibility is not about guilt or blame. It's not about punishing yourself for what went wrong. It's about recognizing that the only way forward is to take ownership of what happens next. It's about saying, I may not have caused everything in my life, but I am responsible for what I do with it now. That's where freedom begins. That's where your attitude shifts from victim to victor. That's where you stop waiting for life to get easier and start becoming stronger. And the attitude you walk through life with is not a product of your past, it's a product of your perspective. And your perspective is shaped by how much responsibility you are willing to accept. When you accept full responsibility for your emotions, your reactions, your choices, and your growth, you begin to see life differently. You stop being offended by every challenge and you start welcoming them as opportunities to prove your strength. You stop resenting difficult people and you start learning how to lead yourself better. You stop wishing for a different path and you start mastering the one you're on. Think about the most successful people you admire. They aren't the ones who had perfect lives. They're the ones who took imperfect lives and did something extraordinary with them. They made a choice, a daily choice, to own their energy, their mindset, their habits. They didn't wait for the perfect conditions. They didn't wait for someone to hand them a better opportunity. They looked at their circumstances, good or bad, and said, this is where I start, not where I stop. Responsibility is uncomfortable at first. It strips away your ability to blame others. It exposes where you've been hiding behind fear, but it also does something miraculous. It wakes up your power. It gives you back your dignity. It returns your confidence. Because once you realize that you are not at the mercy of anyone else's behavior, decisions, or approval, you become free to build the kind of life you've always dreamed of. Not because someone rescued you, but because you rescued yourself. So many people walk through life angry, bitter, frustrated, and resentful, not because life is unfair, but because they're still waiting for someone else to change so they can finally feel happy. But here's the truth, nobody owes you the life you want. Not your parents, not your boss, not the government, not your partner, not your past. Only you can give yourself permission to rise above it. And that starts the moment you stop making excuses and start making decisions. Decisions to improve, decisions to grow, decisions to take responsibility, not because it's easy, but because it's the only way to get stronger, better, wiser, and free. Your mind is a lot like your body. It needs fuel, it needs rest. It needs consistent nourishment. You wouldn't go days without eating and expect to function at your best, right? You wouldn't pour contaminated water into your system and then wonder why you're sick. Yet people do this with their minds all the time. They feed their brains negativity, fear, anger, distractions, and confusion day after day and then wonder why they feel stuck, stressed, hopeless, or uninspired. It's not a mystery, it's nutrition, and your mental nutrition is either making you stronger or slowly breaking you down. We live in a time when information is constant. It's everywhere, but not all information is wisdom. Not all content is nourishment. Most of it is noise, empty calories for the mind. You scroll through social media and your brain is flooded with comparison, complaints, and chaos. You turn on the news and within 5 minutes, you've absorbed an hour's worth of anxiety. You talk to the wrong people at the wrong time and suddenly your confidence feels like it's been drained. But the good news is this, just like your body responds to clean food and movement, your mind responds to positive input, intentional learning and inspiration. You have the power to choose what you feed it. Start with the morning. The way you begin your day often sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. If you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, you're surrendering the most important part of your day, your mindset, to an unpredictable stream of content you didn't choose. Instead, imagine what would happen if you started your morning with 5 minutes of gratitude, 10 minutes of powerful reading, or even just a few affirmations reminding you who you are and what you're capable of. That small shift isn't just feel-good fluff, it's foundational. Because how you feed your mind first thing in the day often determines how you think when pressure hits later in the day. Feeding your mind with positivity isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your brain to focus on strength, possibilities, and solutions rather than fear, complaints, and limitations. It's about being proactive instead of reactive. It's about taking your mental state seriously enough to treat it like the priceless resource it is. If your mind controls your decisions, your emotions, your relationships, and your results, then what you feed it becomes one of the most important habits of your entire life. And this isn't just about books or motivational videos, it's about your daily environment. Who are you listening to? What kind of conversations are shaping your thoughts? What kind of language are you using when you speak to yourself? If all you hear is sarcasm, gossip, negativity, and discouragement, don't be surprised when that becomes the default tone of your thinking. But when you start replacing that input with voices that challenge you to grow, ideas that lift your vision, stories that stir your heart, you'll start to see your energy change, your focus sharpen, and your belief system strengthen. This is a habit, not a one-time fix. Just like you can't work out once and be fit forever, you can't read one positive quote and expect lasting change. Feeding your mind daily means choosing progress over passivity. It means surrounding yourself with the kind of input that reminds you what's possible when you rise above the noise and get serious about your future. It's about taking 10 or 15 minutes a day, every day, to invest in the one thing that controls everything else, your mind. And when you get intentional about your mental diet, when you make it a daily discipline to choose growth over garbage, your attitude starts to shift. Your emotions become more stable, your direction becomes more clear, and what once felt overwhelming begins to feel possible, not because the world changed, but because your mindset did. Every person faces challenges. No one is exempt, not the rich, not the talented, not the disciplined, not even the lucky. Life will test you, it will stretch you, it will put weight on your shoulders you didn't ask for, but how you interpret those challenges determines everything. That's the difference between people who grow stronger and people who grow bitter. It's not the weight of the challenge, it's the mindset that carries it. Most people see challenges as interruptions, as punishments, as things they need to survive so they can get back to normal. But what if that thinking is backwards? What if the challenge isn't interrupting your life but revealing your next level? What if it's not a roadblock but a doorway? Challenges, when seen through the right lens, are some of life's most powerful training grounds. They expose what needs to be strengthened. They force you to confront what you've been avoiding. They teach you lessons you couldn't learn in comfort. See, pain has a purpose, but only if you choose to give it one. When something difficult happens, you have two choices. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can focus on what you lost, or you can ask yourself what you're meant to gain. Most people never stop to ask that question because they're so focused on surviving the storm that they forget to look for the lesson inside it. Think back to some of your most difficult seasons, the times you felt stretched thin, the times you were confused, overwhelmed, maybe even heartbroken. Now ask yourself this: didn't those moments shape you more than anything else? Didn't they force you to grow in ways you never would have on your own? That's the power of reframing. That's the power of looking at a problem and saying, this is painful, yes, but this is also useful. This is training me for something greater. When you reframe a challenge as an opportunity, your brain stops panicking and starts planning. You stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? You begin to look for meaning instead of just relief. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You become more resilient, more focused, more grounded, and you begin to trust the process instead of resisting it. That doesn't mean you enjoy the pain. It doesn't mean you pretend like everything is fine. It simply means you refuse to let hard times go to waste. You decide to dig for the treasure in the trial. You ask better questions. You look deeper. And most importantly, you act from a place of growth, not defeat. Now, this isn't automatic. Reframing is a skill. It takes practice, it takes maturity, it takes emotional discipline, but it also takes faith. Faith in the idea that your greatest strength might not come from your greatest victories, but from your greatest struggles. You don't discover your capacity when life is easy. You discover it when everything feels uncertain and you still choose to rise. You discover it when you fall and get back up stronger than before. You discover it when you stop asking for comfort and start asking for clarity. Clarity about who you're becoming in the process. Some people never reframe their pain. They carry it around for years, wearing it like a badge of tragedy. They replay the same story over and over again, telling themselves they were wrong, cursed, unlucky, or doomed. But others take that same pain and use it to build something greater inside themselves: humility, compassion, strength, wisdom. They don't let the storm define them, they let it refine them. And they come out better for it, not because life got easier, but because they got stronger. Become like the people you spend the most time with. That's not just a nice idea, it's a law of life. Energy is contagious, attitudes are contagious, habits, mindsets, expectations, they all rub off on you whether you notice or not. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, who expect the worst, who tear down dreams and focus on limitations, eventually that energy seeps into your thinking. Slowly, and often without even realizing it, your mindset begins to match the environment you're in. That's why protecting your circle is not just wise, it's essential. If you're serious about building an unbreakable, positive mental attitude, you can't afford to leave your influences to chance. You have to choose them with intention. You have to audit the voices in your life, friends, co-workers, mentors, family members, and ask a powerful question: are these voices helping me rise, or are they subtly keeping me small? Many people cling to toxic environments because they confuse familiarity with loyalty. They stay connected to old friends out of habit, even when those relationships are rooted in gossip, negativity, or jealousy. But there's a harsh truth that needs to be said. Just because someone has been in your life a long time doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat in your future. Sometimes growth requires distance. Sometimes the most positive thing you can do for your life is to limit access. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Positive influence isn't just about people who say nice things. It's about people who remind you of what's possible, people who challenge you to level up, people whose presence makes you feel hopeful, focused, and strong. These are the people who speak vision into your life when you feel stuck. They don't let you quit when it gets hard. They see your potential even when you doubt yourself. And most importantly, they live in a way that inspires you to aim higher. You don't need dozens of these people. Sometimes one or two powerful influences are enough to change the entire trajectory of your mindset. That influence could be a mentor you meet in person, or someone whose books, videos, or talks have lit a fire in you. You don't have to know them personally for them to shape your thinking. Proximity isn't always physical. Sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's digital. What matters most is the energy, the perspective, and the belief they bring into your life. And when you can't find positive people around you, become that influence yourself. Be the voice that uplifts. Be the one who refuses to gossip. Be the one who believes in possibilities and encourages others to dream again. Often, when you become a source of positivity, you begin to attract others on the same path. Like energy finds like energy, and over time, your environment starts to shift. Not because someone fixed it for you, but because you became the standard. This is one of the most overlooked pieces of personal development. People try to change their lives without changing their surroundings. They try to stay positive while swimming in negativity. That's like trying to stay dry in a rainstorm without an umbrella. It doesn't work. You need shelter, you need support, you need people who are heading where you want to go and who live in a way that reinforces the mindset you're building. So, look around. Take an honest inventory. Whose voice holds weight in your life right now? Are they building you up or breaking you down? Are they reinforcing your self-doubt or strengthening your courage? Are they dragging you into drama or helping you stay grounded in discipline and hope? These questions aren't just helpful, they're vital, because no matter how strong your mindset is, if you're constantly surrounded by people who feed your fears, you'll start shrinking your dreams just to survive the atmosphere you're in. Gratitude isn't just a polite habit, it's a mental strategy for survival, success, and strength. It's not about saying thank you out of courtesy. It's about choosing to see life through a lens that empowers you, even when everything around you tempts you to collapse into bitterness. Practicing gratitude is one of the most potent tools for developing a positive mental attitude because it trains your mind to focus on what's working rather than what's missing. It takes your eyes off the storm and directs them toward the shelter. It's easy to feel thankful when everything's going right. When the bank account is full, the relationships are thriving, your health is good, and you feel like life is going your way. That's when gratitude comes naturally. But what happens when the money disappears, the relationships break, the health declines, or the plans fall apart? That's when real gratitude becomes a decision, not a feeling, but a discipline, a choice to search for the good, even in the midst of hardship. And that's where most people give up because they confuse gratitude with comfort. True gratitude is forged in the fire. It's born not from the absence of pain, but from the awareness that even in pain, there's still something to hold on to, something to fight for, something to appreciate. You may not be where you want to be, but if you can still breathe, you can still build. If you can still think, you can still grow. If you can still reflect, you can still redirect. Then those aren't just motivational words, they're the raw ingredients of transformation. You see, the mind naturally leans toward lack. It focuses on problems, threats, and what's missing. That's how we're wired to survive. But surviving isn't the same as thriving. If all you see is what's wrong, then your spirit starts to shrink, even when you're physically safe. Gratitude, when practiced daily, rewires that instinct as it teaches you to notice what you still have, to value what others overlook, to be fully present in the now rather than tortured by the past or anxious about the future. And the beautiful thing is, gratitude multiplies. The more you practice it, the more you start seeing reasons to keep going. When you train your mind to scan your life for blessings instead of burdens, suddenly the little things aren't so little anymore. You start to find joy in a deep breath, in warm sunlight, in a hard lesson that taught you strength. You stop rushing through life like it's a checklist and start honoring it like it's because it is. But here's what makes the difference. It has to be relentless, not occasional, not once a week. Gratitude has to become a mental routine, something you practice like a muscle. Every morning before the chaos starts, stop and list 3 things you're thankful for. They don't have to be big. The smaller, the better. A smile from your child, the ability to walk, clean water, a second chance. And at the end of the day, revisit that list, add to it, expand it, make it your shield. Because when you anchor your emotions in gratitude, negativity starts to lose its grip. Fear starts to weaken. Resentment fades. You gain perspective. You see your life through a different lens, not through the cracks of what's broken, but through the light that still shines through those cracks. Gratitude doesn't erase pain. It transcends it. It turns setbacks into setups. It turns obstacles into perspective shifts. People often ask how to stay positive when life keeps punching them in the face. The answer is simple, but not easy. Practice gratitude like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. It's the difference between waking up in dread and waking up with determination. It's the difference between walking through fire and being consumed by it. Gratitude is your internal compass that reminds you there's still beauty, still purpose, still a reason to rise. Even when the night feels long, your inner dialogue is the most powerful conversation you'll have in your life. Not the ones with your boss, not with your spouse, not even with the world. It's the conversation you're having with yourself in the silence, every minute, every hour. That voice in your head, it's shaping your reality, whether you realize it or not. The tone, the words, the beliefs, it all adds up to one thing, the story you believe about yourself. And that story, more than any outside circumstance, determines your destiny. Most people walk through life on autopilot, unaware that the biggest enemy isn't out there, it's in here. It's that quiet voice that whispers, "You're not enough. You're too late. You always mess this up. And because it's familiar, we trust it. Because it sounds like us, we assume it must be true. But the truth is, not every thought you think deserves your belief. Not every voice that rises within you is working in your favor. Some of those voices are echoes, old wounds, past failures, someone else's judgment that took root in your heart. Taking ownership of your inner dialogue means stepping into the driver's seat of your mind. It means deciding what gets to live in your mental space and what must be evicted. It's not about silencing every negative thought, because they'll come. It's about responding to those thoughts with truth, with strength, with clarity. It's about rewriting the script, replacing self-doubt with self-leadership, turning the volume up on encouragement, and turning the volume down on inner sabotage. You can't afford to let your mind run wild. Left unchecked, it will feed on fear. It will focus on limitations. It will dwell in insecurity. That's why you have to train it like a muscle. Feed it strong words. Speak to yourself with intention. Remind yourself daily of your worth, your power, your purpose. Not because it sounds good, but because it's necessary. In a world full of criticism and chaos, your inner voice needs to be your anchor, not your attack. There will be days when the negative self-talk feels overwhelming, days when your mind tells you you're failing, that you've lost too much time, that you'll never get it right. That's when ownership becomes your weapon. That's when you interrupt that voice, not by arguing with it, but by declaring a higher truth. You say, I am still growing. I've made progress. I've come too far to quit now. These words are not fluff. They're your survival strategy. They are the construction blocks of a resilient mind. Remember, your brain listens to everything you say. It doesn't care if you're joking or serious. If you call yourself stupid, lazy, worthless, your brain starts building a case to prove you right. But if you speak life, if you say, I'm learning, I'm healing, I'm becoming stronger, your brain will start building that case too. It will search for evidence to support the story you're telling. That's how powerful your inner dialogue is. It becomes your identity. Now, let's make this practical. Pay attention to your self-talk patterns. When you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? When you're alone with your thoughts, what narrative is playing in the background? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Would you say those words to a friend you love? If not, it's time to change the conversation. Because you can't live a powerful life if you're constantly tearing yourself down behind closed doors. You can't build anything great while holding yourself in contempt. You are the gatekeeper of your thoughts. You are the narrator of your own life. And the most liberating truth you can realize is this. You get to choose the tone, the words, and the message. You may not control every situation, but you do control how you speak to yourself through it. That's not just motivation, that's mastery. And mastery begins the moment you stop being a victim of your own voice and start becoming the author of it.